Hope all are fine and doing good. Today, let us see something about intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid. As nurses, we come across with different types of conditions where fluids are spoken of, and at times we ourselves are confused. What are these fluids? Let us see one by one. Body fluids are aqueous solutions with differing concentrations of materials called solutes. In simple terms, fluids are nothing but solutions containing solutes. Solutes are the particles which are dissolved in the solutions. So, here in our body fluids are mainly classified into intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid. This extracellular fluid is again classified into plasma and interstitial fluid. What is intracellular fluid? The word intra means inside. Intracellular fluid compartment is a system that includes all fluid enclosed in cells by their plasma membranes. In simple terms, this is the fluid which is present inside the cell. Extracellular fluid. Extra means outside. Extracellular fluid surrounds all cells in the body. Extracellular fluid has two primary constituents. The fluid component of the blood called plasma and the interstitial fluid that surrounds the cells. In the body, water moves through semi-permeable membranes of cells from one compartment of the body to another by a process called osmosis. As we all know, all cells have membranes and these membranes are semi-permeable. Semi-permeable means the membranes will permit only certain types of solutes to pass through but not all. And this process of passing of solutes or solvents from one compartment of the body to another compartment of the body is called osmosis. As a result, water will move into and out of the cells and tissues depending on the relative concentrations of the water and solutes found there. Always, this movement is based on the concentration of either the solute or the solvent. First, let us see about intracellular fluid. Intracellular fluid makes up about 60% of the total water in the human body. This fluid volume tends to be very stable because the amount of water in living cells is closely regulated. Because this is present in a closed compartment, the amount of fluid is always stable. If the amount of water inside a cell falls to a value that is too low, the cytosol becomes too concentrated with solutes to carry on normal cellular activities. Actually, if the water level of inside the cell is low, if it is reduced, the cytosol or the cellular component becomes concentrated by the solutes to carry on normal. It cannot be able to carry on the normal cellular activities. If too much water enters a cell, the cell may burst and be destroyed. On the other hand, if the water concentration is too much inside the cell will burst. Extracellular fluid. Extracellular fluid accounts for the other 1/3 of the body's water content. Approximately 20% of the extracellular fluid is found in plasma alone. Plasma travels through the body in blood vessels and transports a range of materials including blood cells, proteins, which includes the clotting factors and antibodies, electrolytes, nutrients, gases and waste. Gases and nutrients and waste materials travel between capillaries and cells through the interstitial fluid. Cells are separated from the interstitial fluid by a selectively permeable cell membrane that helps regulate the passage of materials between the interstitial fluid and the interior of the wall. Other water-based extracellular fluid. First is a cerebrospinal fluid that bathes the brain and spinal cord, lymph, synovial fluid which is present in the joints, pleural fluid which is present in pleural cavities, pericardial fluid in the cardiac sac, peritoneal fluid in the peritoneal cavity, and aqueous humor of the eye. Let us see how the balance of solute is maintained in the body. Most of the body fluids are neutral in charge. Sodium ions and chloride ions are mainly concentrated in the extracellular fluid of the body, and potassium ions are the main constituents of the intracellular fluid, or it is concentrated inside the cells. High levels of potassium and low levels of sodium in the intracellular fluid are maintained by sodium-potassium pumps in the cell membranes. There is a certain structure called sodium-potassium pump in the cell membrane. So, when and as needed, the potassium is pushed out or sodium is pushed out, and potassium is taken in or sodium is taken in as and when needed. For example, if there is hypernatremia, increased amount of sodium in the blood, little amount of this sodium is pushed into the cells to maintain the balance of sodium in the blood. At the same time, when there is hypokalemia, less amount of potassium in the blood, potassium is moved out from the cell to maintain the balance of potassium in the blood. So this is mainly done by the sodium-potassium pump which is present in the cell membrane. How fluid moves between the cellular compartments. This is mainly done by hydrostatic pressure. This is the force which is exerted by a fluid against a wall, causing movement of fluid between compartments. This is mainly done in capillaries. As we all know, capillaries have two ends, arteriolar end and venular end. In arteriolar end, the hydrostatic pressure or the pressure of the water is higher than the colloidal osmotic pressure. This is mainly exerted by albumin. So the net result is this forces plasma and nutrients out of the capillaries into the surrounding tissues. Thus, our body tissues will receive all the nutrients and other things needed from the plasma. On the other hand, how the waste are delivered to the capillaries, this happens in the venular end. To this even to happen, the hydrostatic pressure is lesser than the colloidal osmotic pressure, especially in the venular end of the capillaries. The net result is fluid and the cellular waste in the tissues enter the capillaries. This process especially takes place in the kidneys, and because of which more amount of urine is produced and is excreted out of the body. Hydrostatic pressure is especially important in governing the movement of water in the nephrons of the kidneys to ensure proper filtering of the blood to form urine. This is a pictorial representation of the things which we have seen before. This is the arteriolar end of the capillary, and this is the venular end of the capillary, and the center portion is the capillary bed. The pure blood is delivered from the heart to the capillary end so that nutrients and the pure gases can be delivered to all the tissues. On the other hand, the venular end carries the waste and other carbon dioxide from the body parts to the heart so that it can be excreted through the respective organs. Fluid also moves between compartments along an osmotic gradient produced by the difference in concentration of all solutes on either side of semi-permeable membrane. Osmotic gradient is the pressure which is present on the sides of the semi-permeable membrane. So, the cells are covered with semi-permeable membrane. When this membrane has difference in the amount of pressure on its sides, either of the sides, that is called as osmotic gradient. Water will move by osmosis from the side where its concentration is high to the side of the membrane where its concentration is low. Always, water will move from the higher concentration to the lower concentration, and in body, it will move from one compartment to another through the semi-permeable membrane. This movement of water from higher concentration to lower concentration through the semi-permeable membrane is called as osmosis. Sweating depletes the tissues of water and increases the solute concentration in those tissues. As this happens, water diffuses from the blood into sweat glands and surrounding skin tissues that have become dehydrated because of the osmotic gradient. This is how our body maintains fluid balance during sweating. And another process by which the fluid moves is by filtration pressure, which squeezes fluid from the plasma in the blood to the interstitial fluid surrounding the tissue cells. The surplus fluid in the interstitial space is drained from the tissue by the lymphatic system and then re-enters the vascular system at the subclavian veins. As the waste fluid which is produced or stored in the interstitial space is mainly drained by the lymphatic system, and finally it enters the circular system, and later on it is carried on to the kidneys where it is removed. Solute movement between compartments. Mainly this takes place by three types of movements. First is by active transport, second is by passive transport, and third is by facilitated transport. Active transport is the transport of the solute from one compartment to another compartment, which consumes more amount of energy, that is, it consumes ATP. For example, sodium-potassium pump, which actively transports sodium out of the cells and potassium into the cells. Passive transport, which does not consume energy. For example, this can be told as slipping fairly and easily through the cell membrane. Example, gases, lipids and water. This can be told as a process of diffusion also. And another method of movement of solute is facilitated transport. Specific protein channels in the membrane helps or facilitates transport of the solutes across the compartments. For example, glucose is transferred into cells by glucose transporters. Now, time for questions. The first question, when blood volume decreases due to sweating, from what source is water taken in by the blood? The answer is interstitial fluid. The next question, what happens in the tissue when capillary blood pressure is less than the osmotic pressure? The answer is fluid enters the capillaries from interstitial spaces. The next question, solute contributes to the movement of water between cells and the surrounding medium by osmotic pressure. Interstitial fluid is the fluid that bathes all the body cells except blood cells. Thank you. Thanks for watching until now. Have a nice day. Please like the video and subscribe. Thank you once again.